Cheers, everybody. Christmas! And what could be better than gliding through this winter wonderland? Second thoughts, stop all this. I suppose we all dream of the romantic notion of a white Christmas, but I can tell you, sitting in minus 20 degrees high up in the north of Lapland, I can think of some warm places to be. So I'm going to interrupt my trip over the next couple of weeks to show you how I'm going to spend an ideal, perfectly happy Christmas and New Year. I'll be concentrating on creating a superb stress-free dinner for Christmas Day. I'll be cooking a 5-course feast for New Year, creating the perfect buffet for an informal party, and I might even sample a drink or two. Strictly in the name of research, of course. But first things first. Right, this is my own personal kitchen in my home, and imagine that it's Christmas Eve, the day before Christmas Day. So that we can really enjoy Christmas Day, I believe you should do as much cooking on the day before as is possible. And one of the most essential things is to make a really, really good gravy, whether it's going to be for your turkey or your goose or your chicken, or maybe you might even want to make some and save some to go with some game birds at New Year's Eve. So come and have a look at what I've done already. Now, in the pot here with some goose fat, I've got the giblets from my turkey and from the goose that I'm going to be cooking. Next, I'm going to add a sprig of bay leaves, a head of celery, a bit of onion, some garlic and some carrots to flavour the gravy. Then we're going to add a good bottle of wine. Then one of the great little gadgets I've got in my own home here is this thing. It's a shower. Saves me having to take heavy saucepans all the way over to the sink. Excellent. Give that a quick stir. Now we'll let that simmer away now, very gently, very slowly for a couple of hours. And later on, we'll thicken it with a little bit of flour and butter mixed up together, and then we'll strain it through so we don't have any of these lumps in it, and it's a fabulously rich gravy. Now, the other nice thing to go with things like turkeys and stuff is some bread sauce. Now, to get a really good flavour for the bread sauce, you need a saucepan with some celery leaves, onion, peppercorns and bay leaves and carrot. Then just pour the milk over it and let that simmer very, very gently for 20 minutes or so, so the milk takes on a really savoury flavour. And that's it so far. Right, then the next most important thing is to stuff the turkey. Now, I think it's a good idea to bone a turkey out. If you can't do it yourself, ask the butcher to do it for you. It really makes it much easier on the day to carve the thing. It makes the stuffing taste better as well. On the subject of stuffing, I have unashamedly bought a packet of sage and onion stuffing from the supermarket. I bought some sausage meat. I've chopped up some fresh onions, some fresh sage, some fresh parsley, and some boiled chestnuts, which you can get in tins in brine, but they are unsweetened, by the way. Also, I've got some egg and cream beaten up together, some brandy, and some water. And it's terribly simple. Really simple. Whack that in there like that. Chuck in a bit of warm water, just to be able to let that soak up. You see, this is the fake stuff, but, you know, you mustn't be a slave at Christmas time, and I think you should use all the bits of convenience food that you can and then tweak them up to make them look really homemade. Right, then into there we'll put our sausage meat. This is lovely, this is real mud pie stuff. Mix that well in together. Then we'll add the onions, the sage and the parsley. All that in. Then the really luxurious bit about this is the chestnuts. Repeat, they are unsweetened. They're just boiled chestnuts, or you can buy them in tins in brine. Mix that in. Leave them fairly lumpy because they've got a lovely flavour. And then for extravagance and richness, and I always like things like that, and it is Christmas after all, and bear in mind the people you're going to have to share your meal with tomorrow, make this a nice alcoholic stuffing. Get that. Hands into that. And then a couple of whole eggs, half a pint of cream, just whisked up. Now leave that in the refrigerator now for about half an hour, because those dried breadcrumbs from the packet will absorb all of the unnecessary extra liquid and it'd be easy to stuff the bird. So there we are. I'm off to wash my hands. This is the really messy bit. It's quite difficult to do, but it is well worth it. Anyway, first of all, lots of butter around the outside of the turkey, a little bit inside as well. Quickly do the hands, and we'll sprinkle a bit of salt over the whole thing. And now the stuffing is taken up. I'm going to fill this thing right up with this wonderful sausage meat, chestnut, sage and onion, brandy and cream stuffing. You'll really appreciate this tomorrow because you'll be able to carve right the way through the bird with the stuffing, encountering no bones except, of course, the two thighs, which we've left on. And by wrapping it up in tin foil, it will ensure that the bird doesn't fall to bits during the roasting process. There we are. Then, the tricky bit, I should have had a proper needle and thread to do this, but I forgot. So I'm using these little old skewers, which are perfectly good because they're bend and they're flexible. And also, of course, the tin foil is going to help keep it into the perfect shape that you want. Right, we've now reformed the turkey with this excellent stuffing. More butter around it. Then put these layers around it like that. Tip it back up to its proper way up. And then place it on my trusty baking tray. I've already put some water in the bottom. Very good idea because the steam helps to cook the turkey. There we are. That can now go in the fridge until tomorrow morning, then pop it in the oven, and for the last half an hour, take the tin foil away so the turkey will brown really nicely, and you can occasionally baste it with the juices that have mixed into the water in the bottom of the baking tray. So there we are. For my Christmas lunch starter, I'm going to have cold poached salmon. But I'm going to cook it today and allow it to refrigerate in the fridge overnight and then assemble the actual dish tomorrow morning, which is effectively Christmas morning. So, the first most important thing to do is to remove the backbone. Squeeze your forefinger and thumb very tightly round the front end of the backbone and then just pull it along all the way down so the bones come out in one strip. It's a little bit tiresome to do, but it's going to be really good news for those that moan about, I don't like fish with bones in and things like that, you know. So you get the bones out quite simply like that and throw that away. In fact, we won't throw it away. It's a very bad thing to do because what I'll do, I'll put this into the bottom of this fish kettle, which has also got just water, celery leaves, lemon juice, bay leaves, and a little salt. Fold the old fish back over and pop them in there. And then, because the fish was too big to go in my fish kettle, I've cut his head off and wrapped it up in cling film and his little tail, and we'll pop that on top like that, and we'll reassemble it tomorrow, as you will see. But tomorrow, of course, is later on in this programme. So that goes on there. Right. Now, incidentally, at this moment, I'm also parboiling my potatoes, which I'm going to strain and cool and keep in the fridge overnight, ready to roast tomorrow morning. I'm going to cook my cabbage and Brussels sprouts and everything today, slightly underdone, cling wrap them in serving dishes, and actually microwave it on the day. As an alternative to Christmas pudding, I've decided to poach some soft, out-of-season fruits, but that's the way the world is these days. You can get fruit from all over the world at any time of the year. So I've put some nectarines and some plums and some apricots in some lemon juice, cinnamon and sugar, and just poached them very lightly for about 5 minutes, and then allowed them to cool. Then, because this is a really economical, actually this is like a winter pudding, it's like a roasted summer pudding, I've buttered a load of white sliced bread, which I'm going to pop round this elegant little bowl, which is a Christmas pudding bowl, in fact. And in fact, by definition, this is also a Christmas pudding because it's being eaten at Christmas. So it's Christmas pudding. And you push this really well down so the bread forms a complete seal. Again, this isn't the sort of thing you want to be doing on Christmas morning. because your hands are all covered in, you can't even open your presents when your hands are covered in butter. Never mind hold a glass. Could easily slip out. Right, now press all that down like that. Then we'll fill it with this wonderful fruit, straining off most of the liquid, because we're going to save the liquid for sauce on the day, along with our brandy butter. I thought this was a rather cheery kind of a dish. Christmas time seems to be a bit black, doesn't it? Christmas puddings are black, Christmas cakes are black, and if my luck stays with me as usual, my turkey will be black as well. Although that's a terrible thing, I have to say. The number of times I've had Christmas lunch with people who really haven't cooked their turkey. It comes out kind of white and steamed, not very nice. All right, then we cover the whole thing with slices of buttered sliced bread, and then finally cover the whole thing with a little bit more butter and squeeze it right down so the whole pudding is sealed with bread and butter. Now, before I actually bake this, I'm going to put it in the fridge to let all the juices from the fruit soak into the bread, and then tomorrow morning, just before or during the time our guests arrive, I'll pop it into the oven and bake it. So that's that. Now, we've been very sensible. We've taken the stress out of Christmas. We prepared our puddings, we prepared our sauces, we prepared stuffings, we've got the turkey ready, so tomorrow should pass happily. In fact, before I wrap my own presents up, I think I deserve a little slurp of chilled rosé. Happy Christmas. Don't forget, you must hang your stockings up. This one's for my dog Paddlington, this one's for my good lady wife, and this one is for me. Not my fault I've got big feet. Great, it's Christmas morning, and I have to confess, despite all my preparations, I have got a bit of a hangover this morning because we were up very late wrapping the presents and stuff. But final movements now. The goose must go into the oven. The turkey's already in the oven. So I'm going to stuff the goose, not for eating, but just for flavouring, with some celery leaves, some pieces of onion, and some pieces of lemon, and also a nice sprig of sage. There. Next thing, and very simply to do, is to rub some salt over the bird and paint it with some butter, like that. Then, because the goose is a very fatty bird, we want to prick it so the fat can escape quite easily, because later on we'll be using the fat to roast the potatoes. Then simply put some, I also like to roast my goose with a bit of water underneath it, because it helps to steam it, and also when the fat runs into that, it helps to make the basis of a lovely gravy. And the main thing is, on this day of Christmas morning, is not to panic. And I'm not panicking, not very much. Got 8 people coming to lunch. Right, that's going in the oven. That'll take about 3 hours to roast very gently, and at the last 20 minutes I'll take the tin foil off and let the skin brown nicely. Good. Now the next thing is my Christmas Day special starter. You'll remember that I poached this salmon, and by the way, the perfect way to cook a salmon is to simply bring it to the boil. The second it's boiled, switch off the heat and leave the salmon in there, let it cool down overnight. So I wrapped up its little tail in cling film, because the salmon itself wouldn't fit in my thing, because I need it for the decoration. And his little head, that looks very much like my director. Then we lift the salmon out. For the moment this is all a little bit messy, but we'll make it unmessy in a moment or two. That's the old fish bones I used for flavouring. Get rid of those bits. This is why you don't need to be panicking. Everything's got to be done at a slow, gentle pace. Now, the first thing now is to remove the skin. Now, this is quite messy, but when I've finished it will look wonderful. And also, of course, when they come having had too much sherry before lunch, the fish bones and the skin won't get stuck in their teeth because it's all removed. Right, head back on. Then, I've made some fresh mayonnaise with beautiful free-range egg yolks from my own garden and first-class olive oil. But if you can't be bothered to do that, you should have bought some from the supermarket. Then we start to reconstruct the old fish with mayonnaise. In here, very thin slices of cucumber, which I've had sitting in salt to get the liquid out of them. And then we put the scales on the fish back, but made from cucumbers. And as you can see, this is going to take quite a few minutes for that to happen. Needless to say, since Christmas is meant to be a family affair, there's no reason why the kids or the husband or whatever couldn't be finishing off the salmon like this with laying the bits of cucumber on, leaving you free to have a well-deserved slurp of something. Right, that's pretty much ready. I'll give that a final wipe before the guests come, but in the meantime, I just pop it in the fridge to keep it cool and fresh until lunch. To get the perfectly roasted potato is difficult at the best of times. At Christmas time, when the oven is absolutely packed with turkeys and things like that, it's almost impossible. So, here is a very cunning Floyd tip, which really, truly works. I've parboiled some potatoes, so you just rough them up a little bit with a fork, so they've got a bit of floury edges to them, like so. And then, into a heavy-bottomed pan, you put some lovely goose fat, or lard, or dripping, chuck your potatoes in, stir them all around so they're nicely covered with the oil, or the lard, or the dripping, and then, quite simply, we put the lid on and leave them there for about an hour, but every 10 minutes or so, just give them a stir round in the fat, and they'll produce the most wonderfully roasted, golden, floury, delicious potatoes, a secret which we won't tell our guests about. If, like me, you've spent all morning cooking and probably having a bit of a late one last night, then this is the time for the perfect pick-me-up. It's terribly simple. You need a few ice cubes in your cocktail shaker, a modest dash of vodka, not too much, not that much, some excellent chilled beef consommé. Get it from the supermarket and put it in the fridge overnight. Shake in a drop of lemon juice, a dash of Worcestershire sauce and a bit of Tabasco. Now, this might strike you as strange, but I can assure you, if you're feeling frail, this is going to put you right back on top of the world. Give that a good shake. Pour that into your glass. Have a quick slug of that before we start the proceedings. Absolutely wonderful. Right. Now, Christmas punch, a very modest one. It's very simple. Soft, light brown sugar into the pot. Dark brown sugar into the pot. A load of cinnamon, powdered cinnamon. And some ground mace, ground nutmeg. Then mix that with some orange and grapefruit juice. And then just pour in a modest quantity of red wine. I put 5 bottles into this, should be perfectly okay. Just to make sure they all get in the party spirit, I suggest just a dash of brandy. And for added flavour, some fresh citrus fruits. And then we can just put that by the fire to warm slowly through. Now then, my Arctic daiquiri is a perfect cocktail for Christmas. Buy yourself a load of frozen fruit and a reasonable domestic blender. Put that in there. Add some sugar syrup Either buy it or make it yourself, which is just water and sugar, a little bit of cinnamon to heat through it. Then add a dash of vodka and a couple of ice cubes. My special Arctic daiquiri, frozen berries, vodka and syrup, ice, blended to perfection. To pull you round after a heavy one, a bull shot. Ice consomme, vodka, Worcester sauce and Tabasco and lemon juice. And then the Christmas punch. Generous quantities of wine, brandy, cinnamon, mace and nutmeg, brown sugar and citrus fruit, warmed gently by the fire. My guests will be arriving shortly, and I've got things to do. Right, I've changed and showered, and I'm almost ready. Just an hour to go, a few lemons on there. Salmon's absolutely perfect. The gravy, brilliant. Potatoes are doing perfectly. Turkey's in the oven. And that's ready. I want this out to rest for a good 20 minutes. It won't get cold. It makes it easier to carve when you've left it standing for a while. And of course the gravy will be very, very hot and the plates will be very, very hot. Cranberry sauce I've got, roast goose I've got, apple sauce. Bread sauce, I just microwave that up and put it in a nice dish. Add butter and pepper to the cabbage, butter and pepper to the sprouts, microwave them. Mint butter to go onto the carrots, microwave them. Brandy butter, ready to serve up with the Christmas pudding, and my fruit charlotte I'll pop into the oven at the last minute just to warm it through. So that's about it, I think. So, with a bit of forward planning, some preparation the day before, and a bit of work on the big day itself, you can create delicious Christmas fare and you'll still have time to spend with your family and friends. And now it's time for my Christmas feast. So, here we are. Merry Christmas. And after all that preparation, it's gone in a flash. But there's something very satisfying and rewarding about serving up a meal and seeing it enjoyed by your guests. Cheers, everybody. Absolutely Merry Christmas. You're all terribly welcome.
Strap yourself in for some extreme rides at 8 tonight here on Sky Travel Extra. That's after Sky Travel Shop at 7:30. And first, some more festive ideas from Lapland with another capital Floyd Christmas.
It's important when you're wrapping your Christmas presents, especially if they're food or drink related, to disguise them so they have a surprise. You see, they don't know whether it's red or white. Happy Christmas.